Good morning. I just before we open the meeting, I just want to introduce and to those of you who don't know her, Anita Lairmont, who is going to be the new General Counsel of the Department of City Planning, and some of you do know her, and I think for those who do, her reputation precedes her. She most recently was a partner at the law firm of Harris Beach, where she had a real estate and land use practice, and prior to joining Harris Beach, Anita served for more than 16 years as the General Counsel of the Empire State Development Corporation, New York State's primary economic development entity, which she was involved with numerous large-scale land use projects. She has served as a trustee of the Citizens Budget Commission and is co-chair of its Economic Development Committee. She is a proud resident of Staten Island, and I know that Rayanne and Fred are particularly happy to see her here. And many of you, I think, have worked with Anita in the past, and I think you will all agree that she is a very worthy successor to someone who is very hard to succeed. So I really welcome Anita. Okay, Madam Secretary, please begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is a City Planning Commission special meeting held in Spector Hall at 22 Reade Street. Today is Monday, March 17th, 2014. The time is now 1:10, and I will call the roll. Chairman Weisbrod.
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Battaglia.
Here.
Commissioner Besser.
Here.
Commissioner Cantor.
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Chen.
Here.
Commissioner De La Uz.
Here.
Commissioner Del Toro is absent. Commissioner Dweck is absent. Commissioner Edie.
Here.
Commissioner Levin is absent. Commissioner Marin.
Here.
A quorum is present. Let's turn to page 1 in the calendar. Borough of Manhattan, Community District 4, calendar number 1, C130336ZMM, calendar number 2, N130337ZRM, calendar number 3, C130339ZSM, and calendar number 4, N130340ZAM. In the matter of applications for amendments of the zoning map and the zoning resolution for the grant of a special permit and an authorization concerning 606 West 57th Street. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 1 and 3, for favorable report is modified on calendar number 2, and for adoption on calendar number 4. Chairman Weisbrod.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Today we are voting on an application for a significant mixed-use development of Manhattan's West Side. Our approval of this project will facilitate roughly 950,000 square feet of residential space, or an estimated 1,189 units of housing. 20% of the floor area, or approximately 237 units, will be permanently affordable to low-income New Yorkers when this project is built. This is another step towards accomplishing the stated goal of the mayor, who is committed to providing 200,000 affordable, new and preserved apartments over the next 10 years. In tandem with this considerable amount of new housing, the project will also include approximately 42,000 square feet of commercial or community facility space. This new development would integrate this site into the evolving residential, institutional, and commercial neighborhood surrounding it. I wish to note that I've reviewed the record of the public review of this application and was present for our previous review session. This rezoning, if enacted, substantially increases the value of this development site, and as I have said before, we also want to ensure that the public can share in the increased value through the provision of affordable housing. I note that the applicant has proposed a text amendment that potentially would have reduced its requirement for affordable housing by excluding up to 4 FAR of commercial or community facility floor area from the calculation of affordable housing. Although the applicant has indicated it is not likely to include such a significant amount of community facility or commercial space in this project, As I said at the time we approved the Domino project, the inclusion of commercial and/or community facility space in mixed-use projects should not be a means of decreasing the affordable housing requirement. For this reason, we have removed this provision. I also want to note that just 2 weeks ago, after both the hearing and the record was closed, the applicant filed a text amendment requesting that a special permit be required for hotel use in this proposed rezoned area. Since that proposed amendment was filed after our public hearing and after the record was closed, there has been no opportunity for the public to be heard on that issue. Therefore, we were not able to consider this amendment and so have not included it in the final proposal. However, I note that the issue can be addressed at the City Council where the public will have an opportunity to be heard. For their very, very hard and productive work on this project, I would like to thank Edith Suchen and Adam Wolf and Carolina Hall of the Manhattan office, Celeste Evans and Olga Abinader in the Environmental Assessment and Review Division, Kenny Rammarine in the Technical Review Division, Glenn Friedman in the Council's office, and Beth Leibowitz in the Zoning Division, and I vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
I agree substantially with the findings of the Chair. I, too, am pleased that there will be at least 237 permanently affordable units, and I certainly agree with the finding with regard to the proposed text amendment, which is consistent with our findings with regard to the same issue in Domino Sugar. I vote aye.
Commissioner Battaglia.
Mr. Chairman, you leave nothing unsaid. However, I would like to say I am very pleased to vote yes on this development, at least 237 permanently affordable apartments. I am glad we did not revise the inclusionary housing formula to exclude the commercial space from that formula. I think that would have set a very bad precedent moving forward, and I think Commissioner Levin isn't here because I'm sure she feels the exact same way. I just want to note that on the parking, I know the community wanted to see the parking reduced, but the loss of the 1,000 spaces that are already there would, as we can see by the report and the analyses, result in the net loss of 700 parking spaces, and I think my colleague, Commissioner Cerullo, would agree with me that parking is important, and so it remains at 500, and I am pleased that this report, in my view, I couldn't have written it better myself. I vote yes.
Commissioner Besser.
I happily vote yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Chen.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Ruz.
I just want to echo the comments of my fellow commissioners and also want to thank once again Community Board 4 for their steadfast support and good work in keeping the eye on the ball and what matters in this. So thank you. I vote yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Very pleased to vote yes.
Commissioner Meddy.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 1 and 3. A favorable report is modified, has been adopted on calendar number 2, and calendar number 4 has been adopted. So this special meeting is adjourned.
Yes, special meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Okay, let's now go to the review session. So the first item on the review session is a proposed use special permit to facilitate retail space in property located within the Soho Cast Iron Historic District at 155 Mercer Street. Our presenter for this project is Richard. That's item number 1 on our regular review session agenda, page 1.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a private application for a special permit pursuant to Section 74-711 of the zoning resolution to allow use group 6 retail on the ground and cellar levels of the existing 3-story building at 155 Mercer Street in Soho. Section 74-711 allows the Commission to permit modifications of use and bulk regulations for zoning lots with existing buildings located within historic districts, provided that the continued maintenance program has been established and accepted by LPC, and that the changes will contribute to a preservation purpose. The special permit will facilitate the conversion of the vacant building at 155 Mercer Street to a 3-story and cellar clothing retail store, as well as restoration of the building facade to incorporate the architectural details of a former volunteer fire station that had been removed over the past 60 years. 155 Mercer Street is located on the west side of Mercer Street between Prince and Hcci Streets in the Soho neighborhood of Community Board 2. Might be a little tough to see, but at the center of this map is 155 Mercer Street. This is north, this is south. Hcci Street to the north, Prince to the south, Broadway is 1 block east. The site is improved with a 3-story mezzanine level building with an existing FAR of 2.52. Buildings in the area generally range from 5 to 7 stories and are clad in cast iron or brick, with retail uses on the ground floor, although this particular block has a rather high regularity of building heights ranging from 2 to 12 stories. The area is well served by transit with access to the BDFM at Borough Lafayette, the NR at Prince Street, and the CE just off the map at the Avenue of Americas and Spring Street. Also north of the site is IMP's landmark Silver Towers and NYU's athletic facilities. If we take a look at the elevations of the street on both sides, the west side of the street, where 155 Mercer Street is located, is typically lined with cloth retail, mostly high-end. There is a Jamba Juice here, a parking garage here, and a hotel and restaurant on the ground floor here, and generally the rest are cloth retail and accessories. On the east side of the street, moving from, this is Hcci Street to Prince Street, also all cloth retail with the exception of a jeweler, I believe right here, and a loading dock to an American Eagle. Most of these are the complete through lots of the retail spaces on Broadway. The site is located in an M15A zoning district, which permits many commercial and high-performance manufacturing uses, as well as joint living working quarters, but limits the ground floor and cellar uses to repair, maintenance, semi-industrial, and high-performance manufacturing uses for buildings that occupy more than 3,600 square feet of lot area. All other uses, including Use Group 6 retail, are not permitted below the floor level of the second story unless by special permit by the City Planning Commission. Buildings that occupy more than 3,600 square feet of lot area can locate these uses below the floor level of the second story as of right, which represents approximately 70% of all buildings in the M15A zoning district. The building at 155 Mercer has a footprint of approximately 3,857 square feet. Mercer Street was constructed in 1853, was most recently occupied by the Joyce Soho Dance Theater, but is currently vacant. Although not individually landmarked, the site is located in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District, which was designated in 1973, and is listed as a contributing structure to the architectural and historic character of the area. The site was home to the first headquarters of the Center of Administration for the city's volunteer fire department and was aptly named Fireman's Hall. It was later occupied by the fire department's first paid company, Ladder 20, which occupied the building until 1976. The building was modernized in the 1920s to accommodate wide apparatus doors, and by 1980, all the ornamental features of the facade had been removed. The applicant proposes to redevelop and restore the existing building with a 3-story and cellar retail establishment. Improvement of the site will involve the removal of the existing mezzanine between the second and third floors. This is a section of the proposed building. There was previously a mezzanine level between the second and third floors. That will be removed. This will also involve the removal of a portion of the third floor slab to accommodate a higher floor-to-ceiling on the second level, and will also involve a storefront infill with transparent glass, as you can see here from the existing condition, to a rendering of the proposed new development site. I will note that the section shows the floors subject to the special permit, which are just the the ground and cellar levels. The Use Group 6 retail are permitted as of right on the 2 upper floors. The resulting development will contain 14,589 gross square feet of retail space, including the cellar, to be occupied by 1 retail tenant. In order to allow Use Group 6 retail uses on the ground and cellar levels of the building, the applicant seeks a special permit pursuant to Section 74711 to modify the use regulations of the M15A zoning district for a building occupying more than 3,600 square feet of lot area. 74711 allows the Commission to modify use regulations for an existing building in a historic district, provided that the application is accompanied by a report from LPC stating that a program has been established for continuing maintenance that that will result in the preservation of the building, and that such use modifications and restorative work contributes to a preservation purpose. The report, attached to a briefing package and included in the application, dated August 15th, 2013, states that the applicant has agreed to establish and maintain a program for continued maintenance, that a restricted declaration will be recorded to bind the applicant and its successors to that program, and that the facade work will aid in the long-term preservation of the building. In order to grant the special permit, the Commission shall find that such use modification shall have minimal adverse effect on the conforming uses within the building and in the surrounding area. The applicant proposes that the use group 6 retail uses on the ground and cellar levels will not have an adverse effect on the conforming retail use on the second and third levels in the same building, which are also part of the same retail establishment, as well as on the conforming uses within the surrounding area. The applicant notes that the surrounding area is well known for its retail culture and position as a shopping destination. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, certified. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Richard. Let's now move to item number 2, page 25, proposed use and bulk special permits and disposition of city-owned property to facilitate retail and commercial office space on property located within the Soho Cast Iron Historic District at 19 East Houston Street. And our presenter is Edwin. That's item number 2, page 25.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weisbrod. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The applicant seeks the grant of 3 City Planning Commission special permits pursuant to Section 74-712A, 74-712B, and Section 74-922 in the zoning resolution, and city-owned property disposition approval to facilitate new development at 19 East Houston Street. The project site is located in Soho within Manhattan Community District 2. The requested actions would facilitate the development of a new 6-story commercial building having a little more than 35,000 square feet of floor area. The cellar, ground floor, second floor, and third floor would contain retail space. The upper floors would have commercial office space. As I said previously, in addition to the aforementioned special permits, the project also requires city-owned property disposition approval to dispose of subject property from DCAS to the New York City Land Development Corporation for subsequent disposition and sale to the developer through EDC. Now, the project site, 19 East Houston Street, is located on the south side of East Houston Street between Broadway and Crosby Streets. This is a photograph of the existing built condition. It is a triangular-shaped site. It is located within the Soho Cast Iron Historic District. The site has about 6,100 square feet of lot area. The eastern portion of the lot is occupied by MTA vehicles and materials. The MTA uses this for vehicle and equipment storage. The MTA will relocate these assets to a site located at 6 East 20th Street, which is located just east of 5th Avenue. The northern or the western portion of the triangle, the apex of the triangle, is occupied by a food stand that occupies that space at a month-to-month lease. Now, the site also includes subway stairs, which is located here, which provides access to the B, D, F, and M lines. Persons leaving the subway exit and head east along East Houston Street. There's also access to the subway directly across the street. There's the Adidas building here. There's a subway entrance here, and also subway entrances located at Lafayette Street, located 1 block to the east. Most of the buildings in the area, as Richard has described in his presentation, are basically loft-style buildings. They have a mix of uses, GLQWA uses, commercial office space, both destination and local retail, ground floor retail, and so forth. Also, adjacent to the site is a 6-story commercial building, and directly across the street from the project site is a gas station, 300 Lafayette Street. The Commission may recall that the Commission heard this project just recently. It was approved by the City Council this past February. Similarly to this project, 300 Lafayette required the approval of special permits similar to the ones that are being requested for this project as well. In terms terms of zoning, the site is located within an M15B zoning district. M15B districts allow commercial and manufacturing uses up to 5 FAR and community facility uses up to 6.5 FAR. Residential uses are not permitted as of right, and use group 6 retail are not permitted as of right below the second level. Use group 10A, which includes large department stores, are limited to no more than 10,000 square feet. And regarding the building height, the street wall can rise to a height of 85 feet or 6 stories, whichever is less, and then the building must set back, and the building massing is controlled by the sky exposure plane. The building envelope is controlled by sky exposure plane. Just want to walk you through the proposed build program. Just want to show you some floor plans. This is the cellar. Everything in blue is subject to the special permit under 74-712A. Again, use group 6 is not allowed below the second level. Basically, this comprises about 2,500 square feet of floor area. This area in here is an easement to be provided for the MTA, and the applicant will be working with the MTA to make that into place. This is the ground floor. Again, the area in blue is subject to the requested special permit for use. This comprises about 4,500 square feet of floor area. There is no loading dock here. Loading dock is not required by the underlying zoning regulations. However, loading will take place off of Crosby Street. There's a freight elevator here, so the loading would be brought in through this entrance, and then the goods would be brought up through this freight elevator located. The third floor plan basically is a retail floor plan. This is actually the second floor, I am sorry. This will have 5,300 square feet of floor area. Again, this is for retail space. And then the third floor would have a little more than 4,700 square feet of commercial space, retail space, and everything above this will be commercial office space. Now, what's interesting is because this building, because the lot is irregularly shaped, the building has very unique design elements. One is that the second floor will cantilever over the first floor, providing basically a recess as the ground floor around the subway entrance. This is the ground floor plan. You can see the recess. You can land here, this is the subway entrance, and this recess will be provided to allow facilitated access and movement from the subway stairs to the sidewalk. There will be some digital signs placed within this recess. These will be accessory signs, and again, these signs will comply with the underlying zoning regulations, which are basically the C1 and C2 signage regulations. Additionally, signs will be placed along the Crosby Street and the East Houston Street facade. On November 19th, 2013, the project received design approval from the Landmarks Preservation Commission. Now I would like to walk the Commission through the requested discretionary actions. This is the building in section. Now, according to 74-712, the Commission may modify use and bug regulations for sites located within M15A and M15B districts, within historic districts that comprise vacant lots, lots that have minor improvements, or lots where not more than 20% of the lot area is occupied by existing buildings as of December of 2003. This site qualifies for the special permit under 74-712. Now, as I said previously, M15B districts do not allow use group 6 retail uses below the second story. The requested special permit will allow that to happen. This is the East Houston Street elevation. Everything in blue is the use group 6 retail space. This is the second level right here. So this is the ground level, and this is the second level, the cellar level. And this is the Crosby Street section, and this shows what's happening below the second level of the building. Again, the blue indicates the area of the building that's subject to the requested special permit. Additionally, the proposed building requires a bulk modification to permit the street wall to rise above the maximum allowable base height. In M15B districts, the street wall can rise to 6 stories or 85 feet, whichever is less. Now, the proposed building will rise to 98 feet. The area in gray shows where the proposed street wall would encroach within the required setback and distance here. So as you can see, the building rises straight up to about 98 feet or so. This also shows where the building would rise above the required encroachment height. And this is the Crosby Street elevation, again showing where the requested bulk waiver is needed. Now, under Section 74, 9, and 22, the Commission may allow by special permit large retail establishments without any limitation of floor area. The requested special permit would enable the applicant to place such a size store within the project. In total, the project would have about 17,000 square feet of retail floor area. Now, under 74.7.12A and B, there are two findings regarding proposed bulk modifications. There are three findings related to the proposed use modifications. These findings basically relate to building mass and scale to ensure that there are no adverse light air impacts. And under 74.90.22, the special permit requires several findings be met related primarily to vehicle access, traffic movement, and loading. This project site is on a wide street, East Houston Street. You don't see any adverse impacts regarding the loading and traffic movement relating to this site. Now, in addition to the special permits, there's also a request for the disposition of city-owned property. Again, the project site is city-owned. It's used by the MTA for vehicle and equipment storage. The project site will be disposed by DCAS to the New York City Land Development Corporation for subsequent disposition and sale to a developer through EDC. Lastly, I want to show you what the building looks like. This is a rendering of the building. This is what the proposed building will look like. This is East Houston Street. This is Crosby Street. This is Broadway. And you can see the building right here.
Thank you very much. Questions? Ms. Chen?
Edwin, on the ground floor and the ground floor plan, because of the location of the MTA stair, at the very tip, there's that sort of triangular piece that looks like, I don't know, maybe it's about 150 square feet or so. Yes, that. And it's at a very prominent location just as you're coming down Broadway in Houston. So is that envisioned to be retail use?
Yeah, there'll be a small retail space there.
The public would actually go into that?
They would have access to that, yeah.
The fruit stand.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a fruit stand. There's a fruit stand there right now. It's probably about 170 square feet or so, but it is proposed to be programmed for retail.
But there will be a built structure?
As far as the built structure, yeah.
So they will have to do the exiting or whatever is required for that
On that same
tiny
corner.
little space.
You can see the structure right here. You can see the East Houston Street facade right there.
It would just be a shame if it ended up just being a dead space or, not somehow activating that corner. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Ms. Deleuze?
I think I might have to call this the Cake Slice Building, because that's what it looks like. You mentioned the signage. I'm wondering if you could just review that one more time, because that seemed to be somewhat unique to this particular site. And then the other question I have is, does the developer yet know who some of the commercial tenants might be? I think that, just out of curiosity.
We'll start with the second question. They want the same type of tenants that you have in buildings on neighboring blocks, so it'll be destination retail. That's their primary focus. Again, it'll be about 17,000 square feet on all floors. They would like to have one tenant occupy those floors. That's their wish. They haven't mentioned any specific tenant, but they are looking for a destination retail type of tenant. In terms of signage, this would comply with the C1 and C2 regulations, which basically means that illuminated signage cannot exceed more than 50 square feet per building frontage, and non-illuminated cannot exceed 150 square feet per building frontage. Within the recess, there will be digital signs mounted within here, and that would have to somehow comply with the signage regulations for East Houston Street. So again, if it's illuminated, it cannot exceed more than 50 square feet.
Can I have a follow-up to that? And considering it's also the entrance to the subway, does the MTA have any special review of that?
It's our understanding for two things. One, the MTA, the applicant and the MTA have been coordinating on this project. They will widen the subway stairs because the subway stairs are quite narrow, so that's one of the things that will happen with this project. It's anticipated that the subway stairs will remain open, so they'll be able to build the project around the stairs to the point where they're actually widening the stairs. Yeah.
But they don't comment on the signage itself, even though it's over their stairs to get down?
That I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Mr. Cantor?
Thank you. Edwin, two questions. The building immediately adjacent, the light wells will not be closed off, right? There's no issue with regard to light and air in the adjacent building because of that light well?
That is correct. Let me put up the site plan here. So you can see the adjacent building. Here's the light well right here. These windows are all in here, so light and air will not be an issue for these windows, as we understand it.
It's also commercial.
And it's also a commercial building as well. It's not a
Will
residential.
they be obliged to install lot line windows at the turn? Or would they have them now? No?
I don't see the lot line windows at the...
We're blocking off that area.
There's-
I'm just curious as to
There are none.
whether they would require a lot line window.
There are none.
No, in the light well.
Oh.
Yeah, right there, where they perpendicular to the new building.
Okay.
Speeds, I don't know how many.
It's a commercial building. I'll have to...
Okay.
I'll get back.
Next question, going back to the issue of signage. The 20 or 30 feet at the very tip of that building are certainly questionable in terms of effective floor area. My question is, does the possibility exist that he could use that as a multi-story sign area?
He cannot, there's regulations in terms of the size of the signage. I mean, again, for illuminated, it cannot exceed 50 square feet per building frontage. So, and also there are regulations on, where the signage can be placed on the facade of the building as well. So it can't be a large
It's taking me over to 42nd Street, to the old Times building, which is now a billboard. And that's a very interesting point to put a billboard, and that's why I want to learn if it's possible or...
Well, that's a very good question. Within M15B districts, advertising signage is not permitted, and most of the signage in Midtown are advertising signs. So the signage, in terms of the dimension of the signs and the size of the signs, are a little more generous than you would have here. Again, they cannot exceed 50 square feet per building frontage, so that's a fairly small sign.
Any other questions? I have one question. Just that appendage of retail, that is a standalone, or does it get connected to the main building at an upper floor?
I don't know. It doesn't get connected at upper.
So what, above the subway entrance, it looks in the, if you can put up the building, so there's the subway entrance itself will be covered?
Yes, the second floor will cantilever over the first floor.
I see, so it'll just be a cantilever, that's it?
That's right.
But nothing above that, but above that cantilever will not connect over to the...
This is basically an open, sort of like...
Okay.
The floor doesn't go through. Here, on the second level.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Edwin. Certified?
Thanks, Edwin. Let's now move to item number 3, page 65. It's a Queens pre-hearing application by DPR and a private applicant regarding proposed city map amendments and zoning map amendment to facilitate expansion to an existing school and mapping of parkland. It's our first pre-hearing application, item number 3, page 65, and our presenter is Philip.
We saw this. Because we did.
Good afternoon. Returning for pre-hearing review are three separate but related applications by the Yeshiva Har Torah, along with the Department of Parks and Recreation. The three actions seek two amendments to the city map and a zoning map amendment. The actions will facilitate a parking lot expansion for the yeshiva and the establishment of existing and replacement parkland in Queens Community District 13. As you may recall, the first action seeks the elimination, discontinuance, closing, and related disposition of a portion of the Grand Central Parkway to the yeshiva. The alienation and conveyance of this parkland to the yeshiva was authorized by the New York State Assembly in 2004. In return, the yeshiva is to provide replacement parkland. The subject portion of the Grand Central Parkway is bound to the east by the Little Neck Parkway, to the north by the Grand Central Parkway and the Grand Central Parkway Service Road, to the south by the low-density Parkwood Estates apartment complex, and to the west by the yeshiva. The subject portion is currently vacant, but does have some vegetation and trees, and is fenced off from the surrounding areas. The right-of-way line will be relocated from here to the back of the sidewalk of the Grand Central Parkway Service Road. There will be no changes to the travelway of the Grand Central Parkway or the Service Road. The yeshiva is a three-story private school. It serves approximately 450 students from preschool to 8th grade in an existing 60,000 square foot facility with a 16-space parking area. The .64-acre Grand Central Parkway parcel would be acquired from the city and converted into a 30-space parking lot for the school. The second proposed mapping action seeks the elimination of a portion of 87th Avenue between 235th Court and Gettysburg Street and the establishment of parkland. It is also in Queens Community District 13, and this site is approximately 2 miles southwest of the Grand Central Parkway site. The subject portion of 87th Avenue is mapped to a width of 50 feet, is approximately 515 feet long, is largely unimproved, and is owned by the Hollis, Bel Air, Queens Village, Bella Rose Athletic Association. The western half of the subject street is partially paved and contains a sidewalk. The street trees, it physically dead ends approximately 90 feet east of 235th Court. This dead-end portion will remain mapped and in use, and the remaining approximate .3 acres will be mapped as parkland. This .3 acres will serve as the replacement parkland previously discussed. The eastern half of the subject street is unimproved, and eliminating this portion of 87th Avenue from the city map will remove the encumbrance the map street has on the Athletic Association property. In addition to the elimination of 87th Avenue, this action proposes to map the existing city-owned Detective William T. Gunn Park as parkland. William T. Gunn Park, here, is approximately 2.7 acres in size and is not currently mapped as parkland. Gunn Park includes a playground operated jointly between DPR and the New York City Department of Education. It features play equipment, handball and basketball courts, a seating area with benches, and a large asphalt baseball field. And just to the west of Gunn Park is Winchester Public School 18. The third and final action is a minor zoning map amendment. The action establishes the adjacent R3-2 zoning district within the demapped portion of the Grand Central Parkway. With a vote of 30 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention, CB13 voted in favor of all three applications, and the Borough President's Office approved all three applications without conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Let's now move to item number 4, page 83, Manhattan pre-hearing application with respect to an application by HPD for the Urban Development Action Area Project designation, approval, and disposition of city-owned property to facilitate affordable housing and community facility use at 260 West 153rd Street. Our presenter is Calvin. That's item number 4, page 83.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. This is an HPD application returning for pre-hearing, seeking a UDAP designation project approval in the disposition of 2 city-owned properties to facilitate the new development of a 7-story building containing both residential and community facility used in Manhattan Community District 10. The subject site is located on the south side of West 153rd Street between Frederick Douglass and Holmes Place, and is located within an R72 zoning district. This is a district that is regulated by height factor. It has a maximum residential FAR of 3.44. However, if you build to the quality housing standards, you can achieve a maximum residential FAR of 4. The maximum community facility FAR of 6.5. The proposed, the surrounding neighborhood is basically residential. You have a residential building that's directly across from the site, and along Frederick Douglass Boulevard is commercial and residential. There's commercial use here, hotel, which the entrance is along McCombs Place. The subject site is comprised of 2 vacant lots, which are lots 55 and 57, and the portion of lot 1. The other portion of lot 1 fronts on Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Lot 1 is currently improved with the 2-story community facility use, which is run by HCI, Harlem's Congregation for Community Improvement. As shown in this picture here, this is the 2-story community facility, and these are the 2 vacant lots that are adjacent to the, that community facility property. In 1987, these lots were disposed of to facilitate the development of a residential center for homeless families, but it was never developed. So then the New York State Urban Development Corporation conveyed the lot 1 to HCCI, which allowed them to build this residential development along Frederick Douglass Boulevard and build this community facility center, which fronts along West 153rd Street. Lots 55 and 57 remain vacant, but in 2004, HPD had an application for UDAP designation to facilitate the development of a 3-story daycare center, but due to financing, the daycare was never built, and these lots remain in city ownership. The proposed development for this site now with the UDAP designation project approval is for a new 7-story mixed-use building. That will have both community facility uses and residential uses in there. The current 2-story community facility use will be demolished and housed into the new in the new development. And the proposed daycare that was never built from the previous action will also be a part of this application. So there will be 3 entrances along West 153rd Street, ACCI's offices, the daycare center, the residential entrance as well. The portion of lot 1 along Frederick Douglass Boulevard will not be affected by the proposed development. So just to take a look on the first floor plan. Much of the first floor will be occupied by ACCI's offices, and then you'll just have the lobby for the daycare center and for the residential lobby. Much of the second floor will be occupied by the daycare center, providing open space in the rear, and then there will be some space that will be allocated to ACCI's office. In February 5th, the community board received this application and voted unanimously, 28 in favor, in support of this application. I just want to mention at the time of certification, there was a question regarding the bikes. They are proposing 26 bikes, which is pursuant to zoning, located on the ground floor. And in terms of the funding, they were able to secure the funding from low-income housing tax credits to make sure that this development is realized. And then we received the borough president's recommendation, which was placed on the dais earlier today. We got it today. And it was a conditional approval in favor, just citing that they want the community board, they want the applicant to work with the community board, small business services, and the borough president to fill the 8 vacant storefronts with neighborhood-appropriate small businesses or services. And this project will allow ACCI to consolidate their offices. They have other small offices that are located within the surrounding area, so by consolidating their offices here, they'll be vacating other places, so they just want them to work with the community to make sure that those spaces are filled. And the second condition as part of the Borough President's recommendation is to make sure that these units are affordable after the 40-year period that is allocated with the low-income housing tax credit. The applicants will be here at HPD on Wednesdays as part of the pre-hearing, or public hearing, sorry.
Thank you very much. Questions? Sorry, Ms.
Calvin,
McCarthy.
is HCCI sponsoring the entire development?
Yes.
Okay. And the second question is the funding for the daycare, and I could ask them, obviously, on Wednesday, already secured?
I believe it is, but I'll make sure that the applicant is aware of that so they can answer that on Wednesday.
Other questions? Ms. Delarose.
Hi, thanks for updating on the low-income housing tax credit. That was going to be one of my questions. Do you know if they've also already secured the project-based Section 8 vouchers for 8 of the units as well?
I will check with them, and they're in the audience, so they'll be aware of the questions that are being asked.
Great. Yeah, and just since they're in the audience, the other questions I have to do with how HCCI's programs will be impacted during construction and where they might be moving temporarily, since I know that they're utilized pretty substantially by the community. And then perhaps you know how aggressively the conversation of permanent affordability was pursued with HCCI and L&M, considering this is a city-owned site?
I'm not sure, but at the time of certification, they were proposing that these units will be affordable, all of them at 60% of the AMI. They have lowered it, so now all of the units will be affordable at 50% of the AMI. They have also allocated 8 units that will be for Section 8 vouchers, which those are incomes at 30% of the AMI, and for individuals living with HIV and AIDS. So this is heavily subsidized, and they'll be here to further in detail speak about, those conversations.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Calvin.
Thanks, Calvin. Let's move to item number 5. Oops. I'm going to turn on because we have a PowerPoint presentation on the projector. But item number 5, page 106, applications by HPD and a private applicant with respect to a zoning map amendment, zoning text amendment, special permit, certification, and urban development action area project designation, approval and disposition of city-owned property to facilitate mixed-use development, including affordable housing, commercial use, and open space for property located within the special Clinton district. Commissioner Cerullo, for the record, is recused as well as Commissioner Cantor. Just give us a second while we set this PowerPoint up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Department of Housing Preservation Development, joined Part 5, 525 West 52nd Street. Property Owner LLC seeks a series of actions related to properties on 2 blocks between West 51st, West 53rd Street, 10th Avenue, and 11th Avenue in the Clinton neighborhood in Manhattan Community District 4. The actions will facilitate the development of 2 new buildings and rehabilitation of 1 building to provide approximately 530 units, residential units including 206 permanently affordable units, 57,000 square feet of commercial floor area, and an additional 7,500 square feet of community gardens. The applicant seeks a zoning map amendment, text amendment, a special permit for general large-scale development, a certification to allow curb cuts, and UDAP designation disposition. Again, this application was certified on December 2nd, and it will be heard this coming Wednesday, March 19th. The project area comprises the western portions of Block 1081, which is bounded by West 52nd Street, West 53rd Street, 11th Avenue, and 10th Avenue, as well as the western portion of Block 1080, bounded by West 51st, West 52nd, 11th, and 10th. These are among the last undeveloped parcels in the Clinton Urban Renewal Area, or CURA, which expired in 2009. HPD and project sponsors have advanced several applications over the last few years to meet the objectives of the Urban Renewal Plan, including the 2 25-story Archstone Clinton buildings, one of which is immediately to the east of the project area, the 32-story Mercedes House across the street to the north, and as well as the 12-story Park Clinton on Block 1081. Most recently, the City Planning and the Community Board 4 led the 18-block West Clinton rezoning, which included the rezoning of 11th Avenue frontage of several blocks, including Block 1080 from M15 to R8A with a C25 overlay. So the Clinton neighborhood is generally characterized by row houses and community facility buildings in the blocks east of 10th Avenue, a mixture of higher density apartment buildings and commercial buildings between 10th and 11th, and low-rise, larger footprint buildings with utilities, television studios, auto dealerships, and parking facilities west of 11th Avenue. Hudson River Park runs adjacent to Route 9A. DeWitt Clinton Park occupies 2 city blocks just to the west of the project area. Nearby transit includes the 50th Street subway station at 8th Avenue, several bus lines and crosstown bike lane at West 54th Street. The project area is entirely in the Special Clinton District, which is roughly mapped between West 41st, West 59th Street, west of 8th Avenue. R8 and R8A districts are widely mapped within surrounding blocks, including just to the east and to the south, and 15 is mapped over the majority of the project area. The Special Clinton District generally reduces underlying densities and requires contextual envelopes, and that's something that we'll discuss a little bit more. While the application addresses the broader goals of the former urban renewal area, HPD and project sponsors have developed proposals specific to each of the 2 project blocks. So we'll begin by discussing Block 1081, which is the western portion, the C-shaped western portion between 53rd and 52nd. The Block 1081 project area encompasses the proposed general large-scale development that is sought as part of this application. Again, very quickly, bounded by 52nd, 53rd, this is 11th Avenue, and this is a line 275 feet west of 10th Avenue. So this is the western 2/3 of the block. The large scale measures 92,000 square feet, almost 93,000 square feet in area. It will be 1 zoning lot and is proposed to include 3 existing buildings and 2 new buildings. The existing buildings are in the softer gray. The 2 new buildings are in the darker gray. It's important to note that the zoning that's reflected in the site plan is what's proposed. Much of the site is currently M15 rather than this combination of R8 of R9. Existing buildings to remain include the 86-unit permanently affordable flats, Old School, which was sponsored by HPD in 2002. Next to it, just immediately to the east, is the 2,400 square foot Adams Garden, accessible to the community by key. The 96-unit permanently affordable Clinton Parkview, also sponsored by HPD. And 545 West 52nd Street, which is an existing 10-story city-owned building currently occupied by several arts-related community facility and commercial uses. Next door is a single-story garage and vacant lot used for construction staging. The building, garage, and lot were the subject of 1994 disposition to expand the existing building with a 9-story extension to replace the garage. To date, the site has not been disposed of. This application, however, does preserve the building envelope that was contemplated as part of the 1994 approvals. Again, what's reflected in the site plan is the building with the plan that was within the 1994 approval disposition action. Does not show the current condition. And there are no proposed changes to the existing building as part of this application. The remainder of the large scales proposed to be developed is partially in city ownership and partially in private ownership. The city-owned piece was labeled Site 7 in the Clinton Urban Renewal Area Plan and lends its name to this application. The area that is proposed to be developed is currently occupied by a 7-story commercial condominium that is largely vacant except for livery parking on the ground floor and offices on the 3rd floor. So this building that's shown right here fronts 52nd Street. There's also a vacant 4-story commercial tenement building, a 1-story garage, and surface parking lot with construction staging. The applicants proposed 2 new mixed commercial and residential buildings and 2 new community gardens on Block 1081. 540 West 53rd Street will be located in the mid-block. This is the first of the 2 proposed new buildings on a 17,000 square foot parcel. The brick and masonry building will be 12 stories, 143 feet tall, and occupy 118,000 square feet. It will include approximately 103 permanently affordable dwelling units, which will be split into 23 low-income, 54 moderate-income, 26 middle-income apartments, which will range in size from studios to 3 bedrooms. The ground floor is 11,000 square feet. Commercial space is reserved for 2 Clinton urban renewal area tenants who have standing MOUs with HPD to occupy space on the block. Cyber Tire and Automobile Repair will occupy the western portion of the ground floor, and below-grade space, Lenovo Lumber, a lumber sales center, will take up the eastern portion of the ground floor. The existing Adams Garden, immediately west of the building site, will be expanded to include the 2,200 square foot lot to the west of the new 12-story building. Residents will access the building through the garden, but the garden will also be available to the public for access by key. The 2,500 square foot city-owned lot at 545 West 52nd Street will be programmed as a children's garden with activities and arts education. The garden will remain in city ownership. It will also be accessible to the community by key. 525 West 52nd Street, the second of the 2 new buildings, will occupy an L-shaped through lot of 38,000 square feet, and it's shown here. The building will step up to a maximum 22 stories. This is the 53rd Street frontage. Here it steps up to 22 stories, or 230 feet, and 14 stories, or 144 feet on West 52nd Street, with a total of 348,000 square feet of floor area. It will contain approximately 405 rental units, of which 20%, approximately 81 units, will be permanently affordable to low-income households. Lenovo Lumber will occupy the 21,000 square foot ground floor commercial space. Lenovo may use the space either for lumber sales or may use it for a supermarket. These renderings show the West 53rd Street facade. This is the West 53rd Street facade, this is West 53rd Street grade level, and this is West 52nd Street. There will also be a landscape courtyard above the commercial ground floor and landscape roof for residents. Tenants will access the building at the eastern end of the site. And 525 West 52nd Street will also include 50 accessory parking spaces as of right, and 203 bicycle spaces. Yeah, there's no special permit here for parking. There will be 3 curb cuts on West 53rd Street to access the accessory garage and retail. 525 West 52nd Street is designed to shift bulk away from low-rise 11th Avenue, DeWitt Clinton Park, and the Hudson River waterfront. This is, just want to make sure I get this right, this is the 53rd Street elevation, this is 11th Avenue, and this is 10th Avenue. Maintaining lower heights on the avenues and increasing elevation in mid-block is consistent with recent development in northern Clinton, including the 25-story Archstone building immediately to the east, and the 33-story Mercedes building, which can be faintly seen. This is between 53rd and 54th Street, just to the north. In total, the large scale is proposed to include 680,000 square feet of floor area and will be built to 7.32 FAR. So there are several actions necessary to facilitate the Block 1081 large-scale development. HPD seeks a zoning map amendment. The proposed large scale is entirely within the excluded area of the Special Clinton District, which means that there are no bulk or density controls that supersede underlying district regulations. The block is currently mapped with an R8A contextual district and C25 overlay to a depth of 125 feet east of 11th Avenue. The remainder of the large scale is zoned M15, and the small vacant lot is zoned R8A. The vacant lot and M15 district are proposed to be changed to R9 with a C25 overlay. The rezoning is proposed with a related text change that would include the R9 zoning district in the Special Clinton District Western Sub-Area C2, which has special R9 provisions, allowing 6 FAR bonusable to 8 with inclusionary housing. Bulk regulations are amended to require a base of between 60 and 95 feet, a 15-foot setback on narrow streets, and an overall building height of 135 feet. The C25 overlay would allow for the relocation of urban renewal area tenants who are subject to MOUs with HPD. There are additional text amendments. Appendix F of the zoning resolution would be amended to include the R9 district in the inclusionary housing designated area. Special Clinton District R9 inclusionary housing regulations are proposed to be amended to allow not just low-income housing at 80% of AMI, which is the conventional inclusionary housing provision, but additionally moderate at 125% of AMI and middle-income units at 165% of AMI. The R9 regulations will also be amended to allow commercial manufacturing uses within the large-scale development that are not permitted as of right, which will ensure that existing long-established tenants at 545 West 52nd Street are able to remain and that Lenovo Lumber and Cybert Tire are able to locate. A certification to allow more than one curb cut on a zoning lot is also sought to allow 3 curb cuts to access the garage and the retail. HPD further seeks UDAP designation disposition of land and air rights on portions of Block 1081. And lastly, HPD and 525 West 52nd Street seek a large-scale general development special permit for the distribution of available floor area from the existing buildings to 2 new buildings in the large-scale development, as well as several height and setback waivers. Again, R9 requires a base of up to 95 feet, a 15-foot setback, and an overall building height of 135 feet. Additionally, in quality housing buildings, a 10-foot setback is required above 95 feet in the rear yard. 540 West 53rd Street will generally rise to 124 feet at its eastern end or 143 feet at its western end, and will therefore require front setback, shown here, front setback, building height, and rear setback waivers. 525 West 52nd Street rises to as much as 263 feet on West 53rd Street and as much as 174 feet on West 52nd Street, and will therefore also require a front setback, building height, and rear setback waivers. So just we're going to discuss Block 1081 and Block 1080 separately, so very quickly with Block 1080. It comprises one zoning lot at the western end of the block between West 51st, West 52nd Street, 10th Avenue, and 11th Avenue. The project area extends to a depth of 225 feet, its northern portion, and 200 feet east of 11th Avenue. There are several existing buildings, including 4- and 5-story tenements and brownstones that were rehabilitated for affordable housing with ground floor commercial at the northern and southern ends of the block, fronting 11th Avenue. There is a community garden at the corner of West 51st Street and 11th Avenue. Cybert Tire currently occupies the city-owned 726 11th Avenue, a 2-story former stable in the middle portion of the block, shown here. The Irish Arts Center, appropriately for today, fronts on West 51st Street. The Police Athletic League Duncan Center is also housed on 2 lower floors of a complex comprised of 3 narrow 4-story buildings pictured here on West 52nd Street, as well as a 1-story warehouse that fronts just here on West 51st Street. The Irish Arts and the PAL are also city-owned. HPD is proposing the renovation of the Captain Post building at 556 West 52nd Street and adjacent 25-foot wide yard. The building, which has 50 feet of frontage on West 52nd Street, is a vacant 5-story commercial loft building. The yard is used for outdoor storage. The Captain Post building is planned to be renovated to include approximately 22 units of low and moderate income housing for households earning between 80 and 100% of AMI, and approximately 14 2-bedroom units and 8 studios. The renovation will also include a partial 6th-floor addition set back from both the northern and southern building frontages. The building will increase from 85 feet to 91 feet. There will be 4,120 square feet of community facility space on the ground floor and cellar, with an entrance from the street. The approximately 2,500 square foot storage yard located immediately to the west will be converted to a community garden with access for building residents. The Duncan PAL, with buildings fronting both West 51st and West 52nd Streets, over 10,000 square feet, is currently underutilized and is in poor condition. While there is no selected sponsor or a site-specific plan identified for the Duncan PAL, HPD is proposing a zoning designation that is suitable to the site's future development. So HPD proposes 3 actions affecting Block 1080, including a zoning map amendment, text amendments, and UDAP designation disposition. Currently, R8A and CT5 overlay are mapped to a depth of 100 feet from 11th Avenue, and R8 is mapped on the remainder of the zoning lot. Most of the zoning lot is in western sub-area C2. The small remaining portion, 25-foot wide portion, is in the excluded area. As has been discussed, western sub-area C2 includes modified provisions for R8 and R8A districts. Extending the R8 district, as well as the western sub-area C2 designation to the entire zoning lot will regularize the bulk and use controls and allow use of the inclusionary housing program. The 10,000 square foot Duncan PAL parcel would increase permitted density from 4.2 to 5.4 to as much as 7.2 with inclusionary housing, making the site more attractive to project sponsors and ensuring the provision of affordable units on the site in the future. Further text amendments are proposed to expand the inclusionary housing designated areas to include the zoning lot and extend the same low, moderate, and middle income inclusionary housing program for Block 1081 that's being used in Block 1081 to Block 1080. Finally, HPD seeks UDAP designation disposition of the Captain Post site to allow the development of 22 affordable residential units. Community Board 4 issued a letter in support of the application on January 31st with the conditions that all affordable housing developed on the project site be affordable in perpetuity. Specifically concerning 525 West 52nd Street, the larger of the 2 new buildings, all units will be randomly distributed throughout all of the floors in the building. Finishes and fixtures will be the same in all units, and amenities will be available to affordable unit residents at reduced fee. Concerning the entire application, Community Board 4 asks that applicants will cooperate with the Board Construction Task Force to deal with construction effects. The sidewalk on West 53rd Street will be enhanced with expanded street tree beds. Applicants will contact Archstone Clinton and Mercedes House in an effort to coordinate street improvements and secure pedestrian perimeter lighting on West 52nd and West 53rd Streets. And Lenoble will consult with the board should negotiations for an affordable supermarket on West 53rd Street fall through. On March 12th, the Borough President also issued a letter recommending approval of the application with the condition that the applicants explore a more thorough distribution of affordable units in 525 West 52nd Street in keeping with the board's recommendations. That the applicants apply for a text amendment to remove the lumber store use with no limitation on size if Lenoble Lumber does not occupy its space on West 53rd Street. That the applicants continue to work with the board and the Borough President's office to find an appropriate small business to occupy Lenoble Lumber space should an affordable supermarket tenant not be found. Further, the Borough President requests that the concentration of bulk and height in the mid-block does not become a standard element of all projects in the Clinton neighborhood.
Thank you very much for a very comprehensive and reasonably clear explanation. Questions? Ms. Battaglia.
So let's start with the modified text amendment for inclusionary housing. That would only apply to R8A and R9 districts within the special Clinton district.
That's right.
And they have made it very clear, that particular community board, that they are looking for different income, they're very
For
concerned.
a mix of affordability, that's right.
So the other thing, in reading this, when I read the community board's recommendation that, is it Lenoble Lumber will inform them if a supermarket falls through, I didn't remember reading that a supermarket was part of it. So I understand they're part of an agreement that would keep them, give them access to the commercial space.
Right.
But there's a question whether or not it will be lumber sales or a supermarket?
That's right. So Lenoble Lumber has an MOU with the HPD that it can return to this block and occupy commercial space on this block. Of course, Lenoble Lumber is in the lumber business. However, once they have the site, they are able to, and I believe that this is something that the applicant can speak to. It's consistent with the MOU that Lenoble Lumber can then lease its space to another tenant, and the supermarket has been discussed. So in the application itself, only a lumber use, and there's a text amendment that makes sure that lumber store use would be legal here and would be accommodated. But outside of that, Lenoble Lumber can also sublease to a supermarket.
So the last question, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, is, hang on. So the private applicant seems to have agreed to everything the community board asked for. Although I don't see a section that talks about affordability in perpetuity through a restrictive deck. Could you address that, Carolina?
There's no restrictive declaration apart from the one that is being prepared in conjunction with this application, which is typical of this type of application between the city and the applicant. But apart from that, there is no private restrictive declaration that would require that the units be permanently affordable. The units are permanently affordable as a function of the zoning. They have to be. These are inclusionary housing units. They are generating bonus floor area and therefore have to be. So there's no further requirement or legal necessity that there be another restrictive deck. So there is none.
That, because I thought so. I just didn't understand then why this community board, which is quite astute, would add it to their recommendations.
There's
Thank you.
Right, sure.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Delahoo's.
Galina, thank you for covering a very complex, ambitious, and impressive proposal that's before us. I'm just wondering if you know whether or not the phasing of it all has been worked out yet, because I can only imagine that with something this complex that could bring with it its own set of issues and complexities. And then, I'll save this question for Wednesday's hearing. It'd be great, obviously, to hear from the applicant, and I know folks are in the audience, to speak to the borough president's recommendation about, I think it's Building D, and if they can just speak to, what led to the determination that 73% of the building, the units could be distributed, but not the remaining 17%.
Sure. Representatives from the whole applicant team will be here on Wednesday, from HPD, from the private applicant in this application, as well as the project sponsor with HPD. So they'll be able to explain the phasing of the project, the construction, and we'll be able to speak to that question as well.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Well-done. It's a very complicated project.
Okay.
Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Commissioner Cantor, please come back in. And I suspect Commissioner Cerullo is on his way. Okay, great. So, Commissioners, moving on now to future votes. For this Wednesday, staff have prepared favorable resolutions for the following projects. We have the Manhattan West project. We've discussed proposed modifications. It involves a zoning text amendment to facilitate enhanced public access areas on property located between West 31st and 33rd Streets, 9th and 10th Avenues. We also have 431 West 125th Street office space proposed for the Manhattan Borough President's Northern Office. We have a proposed authorization, the Special Hillsides Preservation District, to facilitate a single-family home at 153 Highland Avenue in Staten Island. Proposed certification for future subdivisions from 1 to 2 zoning lots to facilitate 2 single-family homes at 34 Rochelle Place in Staten Island. Proposed certification in the Special South Richmond Development District for future subdivision from 1 to 2 zoning lots to facilitate 2 two-family homes at 7580 Highland Boulevard and 11 Massachusetts Street in Staten Island. And we also have a proposed certification in the Special South Richmond Development District for future subdivision to facilitate 5 two-family homes at Holton Avenue and Herbert Street. Moving on to April 2nd. Based on our previous conversations, staff will prepare favorable resolutions for the following projects, including 5961 Thompson Street, which is a proposed special use permit to facilitate commercial space on the ground and cellar levels in the existing building on Thompson Street. We have the Rockefeller University expansion proposal, which involves several land use actions to facilitate the expansion of Rockefeller University. We have a proposed zoning map amendment from R5DC13 to R5DC23 to facilitate a request for a physical culture establishment at 1380 Rockaway Park in Brooklyn. We have a proposed special use permit to facilitate expansion to an existing nursing home in Queens, Community District 8, and we have a proposed zoning map amendment from R3X to R3XC12 and R31 to R31C12 to facilitate a commercial facility and bring existing uses into conformance for property along Richmond Avenue in Staten Island.
Any questions? Okay, thank you all. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Very fast.